All right, another spark, another build. Welcome back to the Forge. Today, we're tackling something critical in Tools and Titans. Something every player, from rookie to veteran, needs to understand. We're talking about when Titans fall, the KO conditions.
That's right, Tulin. It's a pivotal moment in any game. The fall of a Titan isn't just a piece off the board, it can be the game itself. But Tools and Titans has a unique way of handling this, tying it deep into the lore and mechanics.
Before we get into the nitty-gritty of Titan takedowns, maybe some listeners are just starting their journey with Tools and Titans. Tatiana, can you give us that quick rundown? How does a basic turn play out?
Absolutely. It's quite elegant, really. So, how do you play Tools and Titans? Easy. Draw your cards, charge your energy, build your field, act with your powers, clash with your Titans, end your turn. 6 steps, 1 epic battle.
6 steps. Sounds simple, but we know how much strategy gets packed in there. Now let's zoom in on those Titans. They're the heart of your deck, right? Your strategic anchor, your progression engine. But they're not invincible.
Not at all, though it's important to understand how different they are. From your standard units or creatures in other TCGs, Titans are permanently face-up in the Titan display panel. They're never played from your hand, and don't just get casually discarded to the junkyard.
So, how do you knock one out? What makes a Titan fall? There are a couple of primary ways this happens. First up, CP depletion. That's craft power for the uninitiated.
Exactly. If a Titan's craft power, or CP, is reduced to 0, that Titan is considered KO'd. It's that straightforward. But how that CP gets reduced, that's where the strategies come in.
So, what chips away at that CP? I'm guessing opposing tools or other Titans can do it during the clash phase.
Yep, that's a major one. Attacks from opposing tools or Titans. Then you have burn effects from Scorch cards, a favorite of Rustborn strategies. Think of constant, unavoidable damage.
Ooh, nasty. What else? Zone hazards?
Zone hazards indeed, things like a decay pulse or an instability burn. The environment itself can wear a Titan down. And of course there are targeted act phase abilities. Cards that might say something like, drains 2 CP from opposing Titan.
So a key strategic note here. Titans don't have separate health points. Their CP is their health pool. It's the resource that keeps them standing.
Precisely. Now, the second main way a Titan can be KO'd is through conditional removal effects. These are a bit more dramatic.
Conditional removal? Sounds like some high-impact cards.
They are. These are advanced card effects that will explicitly state something like, if target Titan's CP is 10 or less, junkyard it. Very direct.
So, not just reducing CP to 0, but a specific condition that says you're done. Are these common?
No, they're quite rare and usually high cost to play. Think of them as late-game finishers. Narratively, they represent things like a divine override, a sudden, overwhelming Rustborn corruption, or perhaps the collapse of a sacred shrine that was empowering the Titan.
Gotcha. So, it's crucial. Titans can't just be junkyarded by normal destroy unit triggers. It has to be explicit KO wording, or their CP hitting 0.
That's the core of it for standard PvP. But there's a third, more specialized situation. Sometimes a Titan is destroyed in special formats.
Like PvE boss modes? The Hollow Crucible, for instance?
Exactly. In those scenarios, Titans can be overrun or corrupted by unique boss conditions. Or in certain PvP plus variant rules, some cards, like a Red Mesh Implode, might even convert a Titan to its Rustborn form, effectively KOing the original.
So those are meta rule overrides, tied to specific events or campaign expansions, not your everyday match.
Correct. They add unique flavors to those game modes.
Okay, so we know how a Titan can be knocked out. But what's the strategic impact? Why is this such a big deal, apart from losing your big cool character?
Well, first and foremost, it's often a direct win condition. Titan KO is one of the three primary game-winning paths in Tools and Titans, the other two being Ascension and Shrine Control.
Game over, man. Game over. What else happens when your Titan hits the floor?
It's a cascade effect. If your Titan is KO'd, any cards in your zone that require Titan synergy, like powerful cast cards or those special Ascension powers, they deactivate immediately. Your engine sputters and dies.
Ouch. And what about Ascension itself? If your Titan was on the path to becoming even more powerful?
Forfeited. If a Titan is KO'd before they manage to ascend, they cannot ascend. They're removed from that progression chain entirely, a huge setback.
And I imagine it breaks all sorts of other synergies too? Things tied to specific Titan traits, weave effects, structures.
Absolutely. All those carefully constructed links can shatter. Tool effects that relied on your Titan's presence, weave elemental alignments, or structures that were empowered by your Titan's specific traits. They might become unstable or completely unusable.
Can you give us an example? Paint a picture.
Sure. Let's take Fuser, the explosive welder Titan. Imagine Fuser is on the ropes, sitting at just 4 cents per. The opponent plays a card, let's call it Rust Shock Nova, and it deals exactly 4 CP damage.
Boom. Fuser hits 0 CP.
Titan KO. Fuser is removed from the board. The opponent clenches their fist. They've just won via Titan KO. All of Fuser's linked abilities go dark.
A clear and decisive end. It's interesting how different Titans are from, say, creatures or summons in other games. Can we clarify that distinction a bit more?
Tatiana, definitely. Let's break down Titans versus your typical summon or tool card. Junkyardable? Summons and tools, yes, quite casually. Titans? No, not casually. Only through these specific KO conditions.
Played from hand? Summons and tools, yes. Titans, never. They start in their display panel.
Is their KO a loss condition? For a Titan, yes, it's one of the main ways to lose. For a summon or tool? No, those are just tactical losses.
Always visible? Titans, yes. Summons and tools, number. And can they be replaced? If a tool is destroyed, you can play another. What about a Titan?
Generally, no. A Titan is unique. The main exception is if they are replaced via corruption, turning into a Rustborn, or through Ascension, evolving into a more powerful form. But you don't just slot in a new one.
So this whole KO mechanic, why does it work so well for tools and Titans? What's the design philosophy?
There are a few pillars. First, narrative logic. Titans are framed as powerful, almost divine beings. It makes sense that only epic conditions can truly defeat them.
It wouldn't feel right if they were as fragile as a basic tool. What about game balance?
CP as their core health helps preserve synergy without massive unit stacking. The Titan is the core. This also creates strategic tension. Protecting your Titan's CP becomes central.
And it must feed into faction diversity, right? You mentioned Rustborn liking Scorch effects.
Exactly. Rustborn and Flux decks focus on CP drain. Other factions might protect CP or race to a different win con. And finally, win clarity. If your Titan falls, your deck's identity collapses. It's clean, decisive, and flavorful.
All right, let's dig deeper into craft power itself. CP. You said it's the durability resource of a Titan. What all does it do, mechanically?
Well, it's the health pool. CP hits 0, Titan KO'd. Job 1. But it's also a prime target for offensive effects, CP burn cards, zone damage.
And it's not just about staying alive, is it? Doesn't CP level also gate some abilities?
It does. CP can be a gatekeeper for Ascension. And some high-tier synergy abilities or Titan passives might only be active if CP is above a certain level, say, greater than 10 CP.
So it's a dynamic resource. And a buffer, right? Representing staying power.
Precisely. It stabilizes your board. And unlike generic life points, CP in Tools and Titans is deeply integrated into narrative and mechanics, not just a number.
That makes sense. So when designing, what's the thinking on the CP range for Titans? It's a crucial balancing act.
Absolutely. The system needs several things. It needs to be simple so players can track CP at a glance. Fewer digits mean better UI.
Keeps the mental load down. Balanced, obviously. CP loss has to matter, but not be overly punishing.
And it needs to be thematic, so Titans with different trades feel distinct. A Carpenter Titan versus a Rustborn. Modular too, so CP interacts with other mechanics like Scorch or Healing. And finally, tension-based. CP loss should feel meaningful as the Titan weakens.
This sounds like it leads directly into having different tiers of CP. Not all Titans are created equal in raw staying power.
That's the core idea. The game uses a CP tier system with a very thematic naming convention, the Forgelight tiers.
Forgelight tiers. I like that. What are they?
3 tiers. First is the Spark tier, CP range 18 to 22. Think new forges, volatile energy, but fast to get going.
So, these are your more fragile Titans, used for aggro, combo, or utility-focused Titans, perhaps?
Precisely. Low CP often means higher offensive potential or unique abilities, but they're vulnerable. Titans like Glyphia, Kleptorix, even Aetherlyn, their strength isn't raw endurance. The strategy, strike fast, ascend early, or die trying.
High risk, high reward. What's next?
The Flame tier, CP range 23 to 26. This represents steady heat, adaptable shaping. Your well-rounded Titans.
The workhorses. Good for tool-focused decks, zone control?
Exactly. Ferrum, Carpentar, Voltra, even Printheon. They offer mid-game resilience, good synergy scaling, and are key to control strategies. They can tank moderate pressure.
Makes sense. Balanced. And the top tier? The real heavyweights?
That's the Embercore tier. CP range 27 to 30. Deep sustained energy. It resists fading. These Titans are tough.
Your defenders, support anchors, big tanks, or shrine-centric Titans?
You've got it. Think Fusio, whose volatility needs a higher CP ceiling, or Restara, Shivult. Often epic-scale Titans, sometimes with game-warping abilities. High CP means hard to KO through damage, but vulnerable to slow CP rot or bypass. Strategy is often delay-based, stalling until Ascension, or establishing a lock.
Spark, Flame, Embercore. A clear picture of a Titan's role and durability. And these CP values are their lifeblood, constantly under threat.
Constantly. That's why every action matters. Every Titan turn, draw, charge, building act, clash, end. 6 steps. Infinite ways to forge your victory or manage dwindling CP.
You mentioned earlier, B, some conditional removals target Titans at 10 CP or less. Is there a specific design idea around that 10 CP threshold?
Yes, Titans that fall below 10 CP enter a critical state. The rule is, if a Titan starts its controller's turn at checkpoint 9 or lower, certain cards or effects might specifically target, suppress, or even KO them directly.
The critical state adds a layer of dread. So what does this bring to the game?
Several things. First, strategic planning. Players must think ahead about CP management. Can't just let your Titan dip into critical without a plan.
A new decision point. Push offense or pull back from the brink. What about card design?
Opens up design space. Cards like, if opposing Titan is in critical state, stun it for 1 turn. Or defensively, if your Titan enters critical state, unlock emergency passive.
A vulnerability, but also a trigger for unique effects. And it ramps up tension significantly.
Massively. Players must race to ascend or heal before critical collapse. Creates desperate, nail-biting moments.
Okay, so we have CP tiers, Spark, Flame, Embercore, giving baseline durability. How does damage scaling work against these? A 1 damage ping to an 18 CP Titan is different than to a 30 CP one.
Right? Damage output needs balance for these CP ranges. Typically, a small tool attack might deal 1 to 2 CP damage.
Pocket change for Embercore, a real poke to Spark Tier.
Exactly. A mid-level task effect may be 2 to 3 CP. Larger cast spells or potent scorch effects could hit for 4 to 6 CP or apply conditional burn.
And some effects might bypass CP, like Junkyard Recursion affecting Synergy.
Yes, not all interaction is direct CP damage, but with this scaling, a Flame Tier Titan, 24 to 26 CP, generally takes 3 to 5 solid hits or turns of pressure to be KOD, gives breathing room for comeback or ascension.
These CP ranges, these Forgelight tiers, seem to do more than just indicate health. They almost hint at a Titan's philosophy.
That's a great way to put it. Each CP band, each Forgelight tier, subtly reinforces playstyle and narrative. The Spark tier, 18 to 22 CP, screams Fragile Surge, high risk, high reward for combo or aggro.
Like Volterra, Printheon, or Shivvolt. Get in, do your thing, or burn out. Then the Flame tier, 23 to 26 CP.
That's your synergized flow or stabilized core for control, recursion, tempo, or tool-focused decks aiming for zone harmony. Titans like Ferrum, Aquarius, Constructus, built for a sustained, balanced game.
And the Embercore tier, 27 to 30 CP, the big ones.
The Divine Buffer, often stall archetypes, Shrine Defenders, or PvE bulwarks, Carpentar, Aetherlin, Ascended, Masonics, designed to endure.
This Forgelight tier system has wide-ranging impact. How does it affect different ways to play, PvE versus PvP?
Great question. In PvE, tiers inform deck building for challenges. Spark tier for puzzles or protected synergy. Flame tier for solo crucibles or reliable team members. Embercore tier for epic boss raids or global events needing that CP buffer.
And for PvP, how does it shape the meta?
A balanced meta often emerges from Spark and Flame tier interplay. Embercore Titans in PvP usually need careful management. Limited, gated by draft, requiring ascension, or in restricted rotation to prevent dominance.
And it all ties back to that mythic industrial tone, the lore.
Absolutely. The Forgelight system mirrors that. Ascension can raise a Titan's tier status, and the KO risk, the threat to CP, is always tied to these bands, makes every point valuable.
So to bring it all together, the destruction of a Titan, not just a game mechanic, a narrative beat, a strategic cornerstone, governed by this intricate system of craft power.
It really is. From CP pool design in Forgelight tiers to how CP is depleted, it's all carefully crafted. Critical State adds late-game tension, and Titan KO as a win con keeps focus on your champion.
A system that feels robust and flavorful makes the fall of a Titan truly impactful. Testament to the design depth in Tools and Titans.
And ultimately, every high-stakes moment, every CP calculation, every desperate heal or final blow, it all unfolds within that fundamental rhythm. In every match of Tools and Titans, your tradecraft unfolds in 6 simple moves: draw, charge, building, act, clash, end.
Simplicity for the novice.
Mastery for the Titan.